This is the Enjoyer Podcast. I'm your host, James Dixon. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. I'm fascinated by young minds, by young people, by young careers, by their thought processes. To see young people take advantage of their youth in a way that I didn't always do myself. You can never assume in this world that there's going to be another day or another chance to make your life great or to make that day count. Today is all you know you have. It's all I know I have. Every day we get is a gift, and we really should treat it that way. My guest today, James Asher, is making the most of his days. He's not a kid exactly, but he's young and motivated. Right now, James is running for youth chair of the Michigan Republican Party, but his interest in politics goes way back. James was a sixth grader when Donald Trump won in 2016. He was still too young to vote when Trump ran again in 2020. But because Trump had to run 3 times to win twice, James finally was able to vote in November and help elect Trump as the 47th president. And now he's asking for other people's votes. James is one of the youth who came of age in Michigan in the era of the COVID pandemic. As he writes on his website, I was a student senator throughout high school, standing up and fighting for parental and student rights in opposition to school mask mandates. When my school district canceled our winter dance because of COVID, I organized a private, highly successful winter formal in its place. It's that experience and organizational skill James looks to draw on as he builds a career in politics. I hear a lot of talk on Twitter from people asking, where's the next batch of Republicans? We're tired of all these retreads. We're tired of all these old names. Well, here they are. Here they are right here, right now on this podcast today. James Asher is one of them, and he's part of the reason I believe and have reason to believe that the kids are all right and will be. James, welcome to the Enjoyer Podcast.
Well, thank you for having me on, and thank you for that very kind intro. And I agree with you that we hear a lot of things with people saying like my generation is doomed and future generations are doomed. But I feel like if we keep our head held high, I feel like we're going to be on a good path. I think that we just have to fight for the values that we've been fighting for the last ever since our country was founded. I mean, if you look at our founding fathers, these weren't 50-year-old men. These weren't Mitch McConnell's in office. These were people that were our age, fighting for these ideals.
Well, your age. Yeah, more your
right.
age.
Yeah,
mine,
25, 30, younger than that.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have a lot of hope in our generation. I think we're one of the kindest generations. I think that tends to maybe be on some side where the left likes to pinpoint and try to manipulate us too much. But that's I'll talk to you about that in a little bit more in a second. So,
absolutely, James, you're young. How old are you now? And tell me about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Tell me how you spent, especially that first year. How old were you? Where were you in Michigan? And what happened when life stopped moving?
Yeah, I mean, how does one get into politics, right? I mean, that's always the question that one asks, whether you're later in life or whether you're young. So I didn't come from a political background. The likeliness of me being even interested in this is percentage-wise, it was supposed to be very low. And I say that because I'm a child of adoption. Before I was adopted, I was in me and my brothers, grew up in downtown Kalamazoo, and we faced significant challenges early on. We were briefly in foster care, and I learned very early on in my life that it's those that often have the very least that will give the most. And so, in very much the sense my community raised me, I knew from a very young age that I wanted to figure out a way to give back. And I for the longest time, I didn't know what that was. For a brief period, I wanted to be a pastor. I found politics when I got a little bit shortly after I got adopted. So for a long period of my life, my childhood wasn't great. I went to go live with my great aunt and uncle who took me in second grade, and they were my guardians for 2 years. And then they finally adopted me when I was in fourth grade. I found Christ. I figured out what my passion was. I figured out that I really did want to give back. I met my local state rep at a fair. He gave me a pocket constitution, and I would take that to class in 6th grade. And anytime my teachers would say something that I knew was would go against what the Constitution would say, I'd be that kid in the back of class that would whip it
You're
out.
that
And
kid.
I was that kid.
Who carries around a pocket constitution in middle school?
The same kid that I was going to school like dressing like I was going to church. Like I do not like that. I was so nerdy. I just once I kind of figured out what I was interested in, I kind of just ran with it. I was like, this is what I'm gonna make sure that my core passion is that if I ever get the opportunity to, if God grants me the opportunity to be in elected office, I want to do work with foster care and work with children and fix that system. There's a lot of broken things in that system.
Yeah,
but
especially in Michigan.
Yes. But I know that first that starts with fighting just for our values. Growing up, the only thing that I knew about politics was what people would tell me, and that was that Mitt Romney was trying to take away our food stamps. So I didn't know anything about politics, and that's just when you're poor and you live in a trailer park, that's just what you're told, and that's just kind of the information that you get fed, honestly. So that's just how that's all I knew about politics. And as I got older, I started doing my own research, and I realized that Mitt Romney actually wasn't trying to take away our food stamps and all this other stuff. But I quickly realized that there's one side who likes to lead with their hearts and likes to, at least appears that way, at least to seem empathetic. And then Republicans, we like to run with our brains. I think that's important. I mean, we need to be logical. But a lot of times where I think we're struggling is that voters don't think, or they struggle to think that sometimes we care. I think we have to run with both. I think we have to run with our solutions, and we have to explain why these solutions actually help your families, actually get people out of generational poverty. You know what I mean? Help lift people up. People, a couple years ago, somebody was running for office and their campaign said something, and I swear I'm going to take it with me forever because it's the truest thing. It was that people aren't looking for a handout, they're looking for a hand up. And that's what I really believe the role of government should be, is not to be there to give out freebies, but to make sure there's opportunities in competition.
Right. But there were none during the pandemic. Schools closed. Churches for a time closed. Liquor stores, dispensaries open. Tell me how you spent that pandemic.
Yeah, I remember the first couple of weeks. I'll be truthful. I got the notification that school was closing down. I'm in high school at the time, so I was like, okay, this is nice. Like a week off of school. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Good news, right? 2 weeks. All right, cool.
Right. 2 weeks quickly became a month, and then a month became 2 months, and then 2 months became 2 years. And I never realized how badly I missed school and how much I actually missed being in that environment, because when you're there, you take it for granted, but there are so many things that come with school, like school dances and being able to see your friends and just being able to build community. And that's really important. So when Governor Whitmer shut down the schools, she wasn't just shutting down and stalling people's education for years. She was actually putting in a roadblock for their development for years to come. I think that the effects that we'll see for students from the generation that were from Whitmer's lockdowns, we'll see the effects of that for years to come, and we already are.
What grade were you in back then?
So I was a sophomore in high school.
Oof, right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
Oh, right in the middle.
I missed my first. There were just so many things that we missed that they were taking away from us. It just feels unreal, and it's like I can't describe what I'm missing because I wasn't there to, I don't know. But I just think about like what my parents tell me, or what folks like yourself probably would share, the memories that you guys
it breaks my heart to hear that, James, because when I was a kid, so class of 2002, right? So grew up in the 90s, best decade ever, by the way. It pains me that kids like you don't know how good it used to be a kid in America. And and so I always had the model of what high school would be like from Saved by the Bell. You know what I mean? You wanted to be Zach Morris. You did not want to be Screech. Maybe AC Slater. I was a little bit on the wrestling team. I was more like the guys AC Slater was pinning than the guy getting the pin, though. Um, and so there was just there's no experience, especially like before or since, especially educationally, that I ever looked forward to as much as high school. I'm not sure what I thought was going to happen. It certainly didn't happen, but I was really looking forward to that, and to have that taken away like that.
Yeah.
I mean, what were your thoughts on being in high school? It sounds like you actually were one of the kids who enjoyed it, and then you
Yeah.
had that environment snatched from you.
So so like I said, I got involved in sixth grade. From then I had always kind of been, at least in my grade, everyone knew me not as only as the Republican, but as the political kid. Um, so I was school president in middle school. I was a senator in high school. Even before then, there had been fights that I had taken on. So when this had happened, I knew that I felt a certain responsibility on behalf of my peers to stand up, whether they people would agree with me or not. I knew that I would get attacked, but I was like, this is unacceptable. And if there's going to be a fight of our time, and if there's anything that is worth fighting for during my time in high school, it's not going to be all these, planning school dances and whatnot. It's going to be taking a stand on behalf of my generation in this district for students. And that's what I was able to do. So when that happened, when I really realized what was going on. Because when everything first shut down, I mean, I was like, okay, this is a pandemic. I didn't know what was I thought something serious was going on. But once I realized that the science was not adding up to what they were telling us, and that the governor had just become a tyrant and literally gave herself the power to shut down an entire state.
Mm-hmm.
I always bring this up. The book, you give a mouse a cookie and they'll always, they want a napkin, they want money, and they want more. It's like this exact same thing with government. You give them a little bit of something and they want more. That's the dangers of most social programs that they start, is that maybe it might come out of there might be a use for it in a sense, a small percentage, but government loves to grow like vines. In 2 years, that program will be 3 times as large, costing 4 times as much money for the state. So the governor quickly knew how to grow. She was trying to grow her powers, and we had to stand up. And so initially it was going to the school board meetings. I was going to school board meetings, speaking out. Needless to say, the Portage Public School Board does not like me. It was actually so serious at the time that I was thinking at the age of 18 about running for school board as a high school student.
Really?
I was very seriously considering it, and I had some parents and a lot of folks actually that were telling me I should consider it.
Now, in my experience, when a young person shows initiative, typically the world will try to line up to help you, because we love seeing motivated young people who all they need is a little bit of guidance and just the push to go do.
Yeah.
It sounds like that was not taken that way by your town fathers.
Yes. There were people that helped, but there were a lot of people that were just so rude. And I mean, not just to me, but to my family, like relationships that my mom had for years.
Right.
People would, unadd her on Facebook, or my sisters. Yeah. Or my sisters would stop getting invited to, play dates with certain people. And it's just like, first of all, you realize in politics that some people can be quite petty. That's something I realized pretty quickly after a couple of years. I was like, man, these people are just rude sometimes. Some nasty people. They would send me some horrible messages just saying how like, oh, I'm a conspiracy theorist and this and that, for simply believing that students and parents should have the choice about what's best for their children.
Right.
And that's some crazy radical idea. It actually got to the point to where I was talking to the school board, and we were at one of the school board meetings, and this was past when they had already let us start coming back into the schools, but they had these insane rules where you didn't have to wear masks in the hallway during the most crowded period of the day, but you had to wear it in the classrooms with people spread apart. How does that make sense? I mean, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I don't even think I need to be, past second grade to realize that that doesn't make sense.
Right.
I was at one of these school board meetings and they were having us back, and the parents and myself, we organized this big group of parents to come together to talk about the real science and to make them stop masking us, to give us the option. I mean, there's kids with asthma that were
Yeah.
that couldn't breathe, and these parents were going up there and sharing these stories and these very real scenarios about their children. And like I said, the parents with asthma, and some of them were getting very emotional. And the school board members were just like, "Okay, next," and didn't answer. They didn't care at all. And so when I went up there, um, the first time I went up there, they had cut my mic and cut me short. And so the second time, and we had to sign up, of course, so I didn't get another time slot. Well,
Right.
another parent went up and they said, I yield my time to James Asher. And so I went up there. Instead of talking to the school board, I took the mic and I turned it and I looked at the parents, and I turned it to the parents and I said, you want to know what we do to elected officials who don't listen to us, who
Mm.
laugh at us while we cry about our children to them? We vote them the hell out. And all of the parents started chanting, vote them out, vote them out. And I still get chills about it today because those school board members stood up and they left. They were
They
so
left?
flustered. They left. Yeah, they took like a 30-minute intermission because they were so flustered. And I literally and then of course, I got invited by my school administration to the next week to have a private meeting with my principals, talk about my behavior and of course and how I was presenting myself to the school board. I don't regret a thing. I would do it still again today. It's still, that's just one of my favorite memories. I have to find that video. It's so great.
Man. Yeah, please do. That's just that you gave a political speech. You were what, 17, 18 at the time?
Yeah, I was 18, 17.
Wow.
Yeah.
So James, you're obviously, a motivated young man. You've been working at politics for an absurd amount of time for someone of your age. How old are you right now, by the way?
I'm 21. I'm worried by the
21.
time I start actually running for office, they're going to, the attack line that they are going to use against me is that I've been a career politician since 6th grade.
That's exactly what they're going to say.
Look, I will get to that battle when we cross that bridge. I'll just say I believe I'm a public servant, and there's a difference between politicians and public servants. I would do this stuff for free, so.
You probably are.
So I am. I mean, my volunteering, I do work for an organization where I do creative work, but my volunteering that I do for candidates, a lot of that throughout the years has always been free, and volunteering. There's been some times where I've been on some teams and I've had, that's been pretty exciting, but yeah, I've been doing a lot of this. Just we have to fight. There's no other option. People say like I'm not that interested in politics, but the truth is politics is quite interested in them. And so if we really want to change, what's going on in Lansing and what's going on in DC, we have to change who's usually there. I truly believe that.
Now, why would anyone want to be youth chair of the Michigan GOP? What does the role entail? How will it help you help our state?
I believe that the youth chair's role is such a unique role on our state committee for a couple of reasons. And the biggest reason for me is that it has the potential to completely change the trajectory of our state in so many ways. We can win back the governor's mansion. We can win back the U.S. Senate seat in Michigan, flip the state Senate, all by moving the needle simply like 15% towards our side with the youth vote.
Right.
Like, of course, my bigger goals is to make that much larger, but simply if we just move that needle a little bit, we are putting ourselves in victory range. So I believe that it is number one, key to victory. And number two, the youth chair position has such a cool ability to empower other leaders. I don't think that the main focus of the youth chair role should be me traveling to going through. I mean, I'm going to do this, but it shouldn't just be me traveling the state and going to meetings and talking to folks. It should be me finding leaders on these
Mm.
campuses and helping uplift them to start their groups. How can we start campus chapters on every single campus in our state? Because right now in Michigan, we have 93 college campuses, 15 major universities. The majority of them do not have a Republican chapter, not even a place for Republicans to come to meet, to gather, to have like-minded ideas. That's unacceptable to me. So I truly believe that the youth chair needs to go to every campus, and if that means spending 2 days at each campus and tabling until we find 5 people that are Republicans that sign up on a list, and then going through and talking to them and figuring out which one is motivated enough to say, yes, I'll raise my hand and I'll start this group. I'm willing to put in that work. I don't think that the best leaders aren't the ones that uplift themselves. It's actually about finding other leaders, the best other leaders. If you look at President Trump, something that I've learned throughout the years is that it really does matter who you surround yourself with. Right now, I think he has some of the best people surrounding himself, and the results that we're seeing have already been great. If I get elected, I want to find other great people. My opponents that are running for this position, they are incredibly smart. I would be silly not to want to reach out to them and ask them for help. If I get elected, they are going to be, right there next to me doing all of those things. In fact, I want to make regional youth chairs and figure out what we can do in that realm. So I'm not running against anyone. I'm running for youth chair. I was running before anyone hopped in, and I'll be fighting even if I win or lose after. So,
Absolutely. James, what makes a sixth grader take an interest in politics? I mean, I get meeting a politician and, being handed the pocket constitution, but
yeah,
what makes it give it that particular meaning that you gave it? You obviously assigned a weight to the meeting, and
yeah,
you believe that the constitution meant this certain thing as opposed to all these other things.
yeah.
How'd you come to those understandings?
I think it truthfully comes down to growing up as a kid, like who I was, like things that I really believed as a kid. Um, I've always been a very observant kid, I've always been very observant. I'd always pay attention to things, very little things. And I think that like I said, I found Christ in 4th grade, and I was trying to figure out what my passion was, and I got that opportunity in 6th grade with the Pocket Constitution. For me, at that moment, I realized that there are right and wrong in this world, and those kind of decisions in life really do matter. Whether you have fathers that stay in households and help raise their children, whether you do all these different these different things. I really figured out when I got adopted that I went in this family that would have dinner at the dinner table every night, that they would make me breakfast before I go to school. They put focus on my education.
Right.
I realized that, like I said, there's right and wrong. There's a structure of life that we should try to push towards society. And I think that God's word teaches us that we're supposed to take those values that he teaches us, and we're supposed to fight for them. We're supposed to go out into our community and push those things. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I am not perfect. There have been times now that I'm running, there's times when I was critical of President Trump, and there's, people have
Of course.
said this,
Why wouldn't you
he's
be?
anti, anti-rhino James, anti, this and that.
Right,
And I
right.
am not perfect. If you're looking for a perfect candidate, then I am not the person. But I have always been somebody that has been willing to learn, to have been willing to grow, take responsibility. And I believe that God has truly called me to serve my community and our people. I love our state, and I want to help children that were in my position growing up not be in that position anymore. If there's anything that I can do to try to ease some of that or make that better, then I'm going to continue fighting. And I think that the best way to do that is through earning the support of your peers, getting elected, putting through good policy, and stopping bad policy. I mean, there's a lot of good things. We hear so much about how politicians can do so much bad. But with the right elected people in office, there's so much good that can happen. And we have to remember that. We have the power. It's we the people. And that's what I believe. And so I'm gonna continue fighting for that for years to come. That's been instilled in me since I feel like I was a little kid. Like I said, my community raised me. And so it's my time to give back to my community.
Yeah. James, as your college friends graduate and move on, do you find that they tend to stay in Michigan or leave?
They're leaving. I mean,
They're leaving.
even before they go to college. I mean, so many of my friends that they didn't even stay here to attend college. Some of my best friends, a lot of them are in Florida. I have friends that are every other state but Michigan, it seems, honestly. I have a couple of friends that are still here, but it is so true. You hear
that's
so
still
much
going
about
on. I mean, I'm about to be 41 in March, and it was the same deal 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That's just incredible to me. The kids your age, do they not value staying in Michigan, or is it that they feel that they can't, that there's not enough opportunity?
I think that they feel like there's not enough opportunity. I don't think I've heard anyone say that they don't think that Michigan is beautiful. I don't think I've heard anyone say that Michigan doesn't have. I mean, Michigan to me, I love our state, and I know I'm very biased, so I can't. I'm not the best person to ask, but I will say that I think it has to be with opportunity. I mean, we have like 2 really good universities here, and besides that, I'm not trying to say that there's not other good colleges. I have to be careful with my wording there because there is, but there are just a lot more opportunities, I feel like, in better states for better wages, better jobs, and that's just a fact. The cost of living is less. And 2, let's be so for real. Who wants to live in a state where we have a party who thinks that they can shut down? Like that's the generation that lived through Gretchen Whitmer. I mean, I want them to stay, but of course, when they're leaving, I'm not, I understand. They don't want to live through this stuff. They don't want to have to live through democratic rule. They want to live in freedom. And that's just not me saying that. I have friends that have told me that they like it so much better in Florida. One, just knowing that Ron DeSantis is governor, and that if something like COVID were to happen again, that he would not shut down their state and stop their livelihoods for power.
Yeah, man, it's sad to me because when I ask people what they love about Michigan, everyone mentions the beauty, but everyone, not one person has failed to mention family. Something like 76% of the people who live here were born here. Right. And that's like historically high. It's one of the top states for that. And so when people leave, there's always some people who will leave, but too many people, I think, feel forced to leave. Like if you weren't planning on a life in politics that required being in Michigan so you're not labeled later a carpetbagger, what would you do? I mean, what would you be seeing as the job market that you'd be entering in 2-3 years? Would you have hope?
Well, I can answer the hope question easily. Honestly, no. I mean, I would be honestly quite worried. In our state, my generation right now is likely to keep on renting our entire lives. We are likely never to be able to buy homes.
Why do you think that?
We can't afford it. I mean, the prices right now, and they're only getting worse. I mean, under Joe Biden's leadership, housing prices in Michigan, and not just housing prices, apartment prices have gone up substantially. What we're seeing right now is people either, one, having to leave Michigan to find better opportunity, or live with their parents for like 6 or 8 years until they can get on their feet.
Quite a bit of that too. Yeah. I've talked to that where, you'll talk to a mom or something like that. Son, STEM degree, killed it, did all the things you want to do, science Olympiad, bad hit or two in the job market, and he's back home in his bedroom from high school.
Yeah. No, that's Yeah. I mean, that just makes it shouldn't be that way in our state. We have the potential to be like a Republican California in the sense of our economy can be big. We can have a big population, but we can be conservative. We can have people want to come here
Mm-hmm.
instead of losing people.
Yeah.
That's the potential that I see for our state. And the difference between getting there is quite simply in who we elect. We have one side who wants to take us to another lost decade, another Jennifer Granholm era,
Mm-hmm.
and we have another side who wants to expand student choice for parents, side that wants to make sure that our tipped workers continue to get their tipped wages. We have a side that wants to make sure that we bring back our auto jobs here, that we force companies to stay here and build in the U.S. and buy American-made products. We have one side that is advocating for that, and we have another side who is advocating for they, them.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the best ads that President Trump ran this last year.
I had many guests over, and like during football, and whether it's college or NFL, that commercial comes on, and there's just this din of a football broadcast, right? Where it's just perfect kind of napping, chilling, viewing. But that commercial, if they don't remember anything else or a play or a score, people remembered Kamala is for they, them.
That was the best commercial. I was like, I'm so glad they did that. That's exactly what they needed to do because they needed to keep it simple. People,
Yes.
This election wasn't actually as hard as because people could feel it in their pocketbooks. They knew things. You didn't have to tell them things were bad.
Mm-hmm.
But you have somebody who's running for president who's part of the current administration saying that she'll make things better. Why haven't you done that for the last 4 years?
It made no sense.
It's like Jocelyn Benson now running for governor, saying how bad Michigan's doing. I think I've seen you post some things about this last couple of days, saying how bad Michigan's doing. Well, how come don't you have Gretchen's number? How come you haven't given her a call and given her a couple of pointers? These women do not care about Michigan. They don't care about anything but themselves. And it's so evident.
James, you're 21. What is your media diet?
Put
me up on something because I unfortunately at my age, and because of my biases, I worked at the Detroit News for 10 years. I unfortunately am still too wedded to the dinosaur media, and I'm trying to change.
I get news from all different kinds of folks. You mentioned somebody who I love, who I love. I think is a pretty good reporter in the state is Sam Robinson. He does. I like his unconventional way towards it. I like that kind of way. My main media source would have to be. I find a lot of breaking news on X. To be honest with you, you figure out a lot of things that's honestly ever happening.
Somehow that's become the best search bar on the internet.
It has.
If I want to know what just happened to someone, like just happened, and what people are saying right now,
if I want to know how
Google can't do that anymore. Yeah,
exactly. If I want to know how a vote turned out, I'll look up I've been looking up RFK, and then I'll go to the latest, and then it'll show you the latest 30 seconds in live feed, and that is it's an incredibly great tool. So I use X a lot. I find a lot of different. What I like about X is you can get different opinions, ideas from people across the spectrum too, though. I found you on there. I've discovered Sam on there. I follow some very conservative folks on there. I have some friends that are more in the middle. I get all of that on my feed, and I that's how I get my information. I try to learn because I feel like if you go to Fox News, you're only going to get one side. You go to MSNBC, you're going to get that side. By the time you look at 5 different sources, you can probably get an idea of what maybe happened. You still probably don't know as much because the mainstream media lies more than I know you know this, but
Oh yeah.
they lie all the time.
They lie, and you know what? The lies come mostly in the choices and the framing. So, for instance, Detroit News, the big protest yesterday. Um, well, they say it was a big protest. It was a trans big protest. It identified as a
Yeah.
big protest, even if the numbers didn't quite
You
indicate
said
this.
trans big.
And this protest, so there were versions of what happened in Lansing and all 50 state capitals. They said 50-51, right? Like 50 capitals, 50 states, one day, everyone's going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Somehow the Detroit News and Craig Mauger lets this guy, Sam Inglot, who I like Sam, at Progress, Michigan, they let him describe the protest as organic. It can't well be organic and nationwide, can it, Sam? And I
No.
don't blame Sam. Sam's trying to spin it. I blame the reporter for letting that spin get into the story.
Right.
And so basically, anyone who saw that flyer knows the real truth, and anyone who read the Detroit News story knows some BS fake spin.
Right. And that's what's the unfortunate part is they love to find like, here, give me a quote that so I can use it. So I can say that I didn't type it, but
So I
you
can
said,
say I tried. That's exactly it.
yeah.
It is, I call it idea laundering.
Yeah. That's
Because
exactly.
it's a form of editorializing wherein someone's allowed to say something that's not checked or fact checked. It's just,
And that's
you
well,
know,
it is free advertisement too. Then
yeah,
it that rubs. That's you see that's and
organic.
it's little things like that where somebody reads through it and they wouldn't think it's a big deal, but for us that know the truth, I mean, that's just not okay to lie to people like that. And I think that's where I've had my biggest growth is a couple of years ago when I
Right.
was most critical of President Trump. It's because, I mean, if you were going through those news sources, you wouldn't think this man was, that he did something wrong.
Right.
But once I actually started doing
What
my
else could
research,
you think, right?
all right, when I was
Everything he
young,
tweeted was a red breaking news banner. You were made to think that there
right,
was a clear and present danger on the tip of Donald Trump's fingertips. Every time he sent a tweet, it was news.
yeah. And so and I did, once I realized I did my research and I was like, this man has this, I was like, this man is I wish, my family, like, he's just a real man. I don't know how to describe. He's just a real dude. You know what I mean? He comes from where I come from
Right.
downtown Kalamazoo, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of tough people I know. He just reminds me of he doesn't take any bull crap. He loves his family.
Yeah.
He's defensive of his family. And that's the kind of, that's what I know growing up. And I think that's what speaks to so many people. It's because he is real. People aren't looking we're so tired of people reading from, teleprompters or their note cards.
Yeah.
If something comes out of Donald J. Trump's mouth, you know it's what he's thinking, you know it's what he means. And the results have been phenomenal. I mean, our country in just less than 4 weeks is already it's a different country. I wake up feeling safer.
Let me ask you this. What was one of the Trump psyops that you believed at the time?
Yeah, so I think that the biggest one for me was the Stormy Daniels thing. So I was, after all that stuff, I was like, and because they just seemed like, it seemed like that you reading these articles and they really did make it seem like, oh, they have all these different things. They have a little thing from here and there. And I'm like, oh my, and then one of my friends, he actually set me straight. And that's what's important to have good friends, is they'll set you straight. He sent me some other things and I was like, what the fact that they're doing this, every single thing that and I didn't believe any of the other ones. I had constantly believed for a long time. And so when somebody says I'm anti-Trumper, that's ridiculous. I literally was a Trump supporter, had like a brief period of being critical. You can say that I wasn't. And then I hopped back on the train. If
and here's the thing, James. Here's the thing, man. You're a young guy. Don't let people push you into that. I gotta be a Trump. You're a sovereign individual. You're one out of 8 billion people. You are perfectly free to decide how supportive or not supportive or critical to be of any candidate. So you ask me if I'm a Trump guy? No, I'm a Jesus guy. I'm not following around men. Why would I ever do that?
Right. Well, no, I appreciate you saying that because the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of that's been the biggest thing probably in this
Oh yeah,
campaign
yeah.
and I'm surprised. I've been pretty surprised. A couple days ago, there was an email that was sent out. Um, and again, keep in mind, I'm running for youth chair. I'm not running for president of the United States. I'm not running for chairman of this party. I'm
Right.
running to try to help our party. And somebody thought it would be beneficial to send out an attack email. I mean, I really am hoping that win or lose, these people that I'm running against will someday be serving together in the state house.
Right.
You know what I mean? I want to work with these folks. And, but I took it as two ways. I took it as one, somebody sees me as a threat. And then the other thing is, it's exactly what you just said. I am not going to hide from any of that stuff. You know what I mean? There's nothing to hide. Having a changing of opinions is a natural part of life. And if our answer to people that have a change of opinions is you should not be in our party, that is not the winning solution.
That's not much of a party. That's not much of a coalition. That would have excluded Elon Musk, RFK.
Right.
No, so basically you're saying there could be no late adapters. Trump just won because of late adapters.
Right.
And you can't say that events matter and then seeing a man get shot in the head and being moved by it and realizing that from the Bible on, the guys getting attacked are typically the ones telling the truth. You can't hold that against people. That's not
exactly
big. It's not expansive. It's not the future. It's not a coalition. It's small. We don't have time for it.
No, I think that's exactly right. It's small thinking too. Yeah. Exactly. It's just it's a
litmus test. We don't.
Yeah. That's the reason that Republicans have been struggling. I feel and President Trump won because he knew that we are stronger when we win by addition, not subtraction. Yeah. We win by saying, if you agree with me on 80% of these things, then that's what Ronald Reagan said. Then you're on my side. Mm-hmm. I think that the idea that anyone who was opposed to Trump now supporting him, I think if anything, that should be highlighted and not torn down by our party. We should have commercials airing every day showing that conversion, because those are the people that we want to win over.
Except they won't look like hostage videos.
All right, we have to remember
look like
that
people who are set free.
Exactly. We have to remember that a lot of these people that vote for the other side, and these are not bad people. These are our neighbors. And if we are Christians, we want to bring people into our family. We don't want to divide people or to hate people. I don't think that's the answer. That's never been what I believed. We are called to bring people to God and to make people. Our nation is blessed, and to make this nation back to what it was founded on. And I think that, and people hear that and they think all this and that. What that means is simply not any of this woke BS. Mm-hmm. Really, and
being an American
America first.
Is such a special thing, because being an American, even if you have the Christian faith, it requires you to be more than just human. Because what's the normal human response to something or someone you don't like? I'm going to shut them up. I'm going to take the tongue out of their mouth. Being an American says that guy has the right to say that.
Yeah.
And we are the one people who've adopted that ethic. And then we said, if that guy stops me from saying it, I'll shoot him. That's the First Amendment. That's the Second Amendment. That's what makes America first among equal. There is no free world. And for guys like us, I can't go to Israel. I can't go to Bangalore. This is it. This is the one and only country I got. So, James, we'll leave you here with this one. Let's talk about the one and only state we have. What do you enjoy about Michigan?
I love skiing. I enjoy skiing. I love our lakes. I mean, we're so close. I mean, I know that's so cliche, but it's true. I love going swimming. I'm a beach guy. I love most about Michigan is its people. And I say that confidently because I have been able to I've actually been all over the state. There's not been a place in our state where I've not been like, okay, that's a cool person. I like that person. I like going to Detroit. I love Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids is like a big city, but it's more Republican, so I dig that vibe.
Yeah.
I like Kalamazoo. It's a lot of work can be done in Kalamazoo. Very liberal. A lot of things that I want to change here. But this is my community. I love it. I love our heart. We have grit. I think that's what I love about Michigan is that word grit, that Detroit, Detroit Lions grit. Like that kind of like when we're losing for a long time, we have hope, we have ambition. We put the country on wheels.
Yeah.
On the road. We have so much potential. I love our state. We have grit. We're hard workers. And if we tap into that, elect Republicans, then I think we're going to have a good future. So that's my message is just, I think that Michigan's the best state in the union. I love our country. Do we have a lot of work to do? Yes. But
we do.
If you look at something you love and start thinking that it can't be better, then do you really love it? So,
the true vine, John 15, love requires correction and pruning down of what is and removal of what's not helpful.
Amen.
So anyone listening, if you're out there thinking that you're okay the way you are, I promise you are not. It is not biblical to think so. So there's things to improve. Humble yourself. Ask for help. Ask God for help. But no, you are not singularly killing it. I promise you. James, where can people learn more about James Asher and about your candidacy?
Yeah, so my website is asher2025.com. So that has all my plans for what I want to do with this youth chair. I has who I am, about my story. I have a video on there from a protest that I did a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
If you'd like to add an endorsement, there's a section on there to do that, and then you can see who else I've been supported by. But our campaign it's been so fun just traveling the state, and I'm excited for convention, meeting the delegates. There's a lot of people who really care about our state who are still inspired. And I say this at every event I go to, for people to still be this involved this many months after an election. After you win, after you lose, it's easy to, quit. After you win, it's even easier, to want to take a break. But to still be involved, they know that 2026 there's a lot at stake. And so again, if you want to join us, it's at asher2025.com. I'd love to have your support. But either way, just keep on praying for our state and keep on praying for our country. So thank you.
Awesome, James. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for having me so much. Thank you. It's been a great conversation. I really enjoyed it.
It has. Be blessed.